Let's see how you did. Hopefully you noticed that the word arc length or length does not show up on any of these 6 problems. Nowhere in the directions does it ask you to find it. And so basically these are all just asking angles. Even though notation looks like it's asking you to find the arc length, it really is not. So the first thing they ask us is to find the measure of angle APE, which is right here. Well, if 90 is used up there, 40 is used up there, how do we know that CPB is a diameter? Because it's circle P, so P must be the center. And so we know that, and so we know it's 180, which leaves how much for this one right here? 50. Okay, so that's the answer right there, 50 degrees. Letter B, we actually go down. It says CPB. All right, well, CPB, you can go either way. There's more room over here for me to write it, so I'll write it over there. And that must be 180 degrees. Okay. So letter C, is that asking for the arc length or the measure of the central angle that created the arc? All it's asking for is the central angle. Because let's face it, can you even find arc length on this problem? Because what didn't I give you? I didn't give you radius, I didn't give you diameter. There's no way to figure it out. And so that's another way you could probably figure it out on this one that I wasn't asking that. So here is arc AE. So the central angle that is creating it is 50 degrees. These two are pretty much asking the exact same question, just a slightly different way. So how about CE? Once again, arc length not part of this, so that's 40 degrees. How about CAB? Got to go that way. Well, that's 180 degrees. And EDB. So you go from E to D to B. What'd you get for that one? 140. 2 ways you could have done that, obviously. You could have just added these both together, or you could have said this whole thing's 180 and I'm not using 40. So that leaves 140. Either way. So any questions on that one? Would this be the same answer if I switched 2 letters around? Would that have the same answer if I asked for E, B, D? I see a lot of people shaking their head. No. Because if I ask for E, B, D, you got to go from E, and then the next letter I better hit of those 2 is B. So you actually have to go that way. Is that the same answer as the one I just did? No. Is that one we can actually answer right now? No, because we don't know that angle right here. If I knew that angle, we could, but we don't know that one for sure. Okay, just checking with you. How about this one? Does this one talk about arc length anywhere on these problems? Most definitely. It says it right in the directions. Determine the lengths of each arc. We know Ln is 8. In other words, then the diameter is 8. Well, LM, here it is. The central angle is 30. So we're going to take 30 degrees and divide it by 360 because that's the whole thing. And we'll say round to the nearest, what do you want to do? Nearest hundredth here, sounds good? Sure, we'll do that. Times, well, if you want to stick with that other formula, it's 2 times pi times the radius, which happens to be 4. Okay. So basically that right there is 4, so is that one, so is that one. So what do you think when you finish this? Is this answer going to be more than 4 or less? Again, you're talking about LM, which is this little one right here. If I straighten that out, do you think that's going to be more than 4 or less? Okay, I heard less. I would have to agree with that. And calculators are working away. What'd you come up with? 2.09? Is that believable? Yeah, definitely. Again, no label here, so you don't have to worry about that. If you want to put units, you could do that. All right. MN. Well, how many degrees is that? 150. So 150 degrees out of 360 degrees. And seeing all of these are with the same circle, should the circumference for each of these problems be the same? Yeah. What is the circumference? It's 8 pi. Does everybody see where I'm getting 8 pi from? Is that okay if I just use that? Okay. Go ahead. Again, if you had to simplify, they both have zeros here, so they would do that. Again, if you had to find the exact answer. But I'm saying you can round to the nearest tenth. Are we expecting this one to be more than 4, less than 4? Anybody? One? How about 8? Compare it to 8. What do you think? If I cut that and straightened it out, do you think it's going to be longer than that diameter? I see a few people saying yes. A few people are like, it's kind of close. What'd you come up with? 10.47? Why don't you try C right now if you have not done so already? Well, probably the best thing to do first is figure out NLM and where that is. So you go from N to L to M. So we got to figure out how many degrees that is. Well, we know from here to just there is 180, so we got 30 more. Is it okay to have 210 degrees? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Over 360 degrees. And it's 8 pi again because we're talking about the same circle. So degrees cancels, 0 cancels. Again, that's if you had to simplify various things like that. And I'm guessing this one's probably going to be more than the 10.47 we had on the last one because it's a little bit longer. And what did we get? I got approximately 14.66. Do you agree with that answer? All right. You're going to find in math and science, you're going to get a lot of prefixes and a lot of suffixes that just conjugate the words. And you really want to probably get pretty good at being able to figure it out. What do you think the root of concentric circles is? What's the word, the root of concentric? Where did it start? Center. Very good. Center's the root. Putting IC at the end just makes it an adjective. So it's a centric describing the circles, what kind of circles they are. How about con, that prefix? Sometimes it's just co, sometimes it's con, depending on the word. What does con mean in Spanish? With, okay. It means the same thing. All languages come from Latin, so it's okay. Con, or shared. So circles that share a center. Can you give me an example of circles that would share a target? Yeah, a bullseye, most definitely. They share the same center. It's the bullseye. Or some people say ripples in water. Okay, all of those are good. So basically, obviously this isn't going to be perfect, but you get the idea. They share the same center. Okay. Does it say it has to go out in a symmetric way? No, they just have to share the same center. You could have a really small one and then a really huge one. As long as they have the same center, they would be considered concentric circles. Any questions on anything that's been given to you today? Like I said, nothing overly hard. It's just you've got to keep straight the directions. Okay, the question was how I got 210 degrees for that last one. That's fine. Basically, I knew it went from N to L to M, so that's what I outlined in blue. This much of it was 180, and then I went 30 more, so I just added them together. Or what you could have done is taken 360 and subtracted the 150, which you're not using, and you would have gotten 210 either way. Anything else?